I'll just give a quick explanation why we're doing this. This was requested by Steve. We had previously presented this system during a discussion to show some of the capabilities that we have as they relate to the design elements of the system. And Connie is the general manager of our Iowa Center as well as our Wisconsin Overflow Center. And this system was specifically designed for the Iowa group, and Connie has managed it since the beginning. Kristen is her ITIC coordinator, who deals with education and outreach related to these products. So the two of them are going to take us through a demo of the product.
Okay.
And
well, as Adam indicated, when we took over, partnered with the Iowa One Call board, they had a system online that did some basic design information type requests. And it was a voluntary system, but they also charged. They charged project individuals, architects, engineers, state agencies that needed to do, project design work, a fee every year. And the fee was started out, I think, at $175, and it dropped down to $75. And then ultimately, when we launched the site that Christine's going to demo for you, it was then free. And the reason they chose to do away with the fee was because they really wanted to increase the use of this particular tool, because what they had found in the past is when it was used, it worked great. However, paying for that and then also getting the utilities on the back end to participate and locate where these tickets needed to be done, there was a little bit of a hesitancy. So when we worked with a small work group, redesigned it, we did away with the administration cost of it. And now anyone that is doing any type of design work, whether that be for the utility, whether it be a professional architect or an engineer, can actually use the system. I will have Christine in a minute show you a real brief registration form that we consolidated. It used to be about 3 pages. Now it's less than a page. And the reason we still have people register, even though it's free, is that we use this information every year to send them information out about different meetings. We've done some special webinars and also face-to-face, what we would call excavator meetings with just the professional architect and engineering group to keep this in front of them. As we all know, there's churn in every industry right now with the job market the way it is. So it allows us to be able to reach out to those specific individuals and keep them up to date with any changes in that we do. Just to briefly give you some information about how many design information requests that we did last year was just shy of 5,000. And out of those 5,000 that were entered, only about 3,600 of those actually needed the utility to go out and physically put paint on the ground as it relates to their proposed project. So with that, Christine, I'm going to have you go and show the registration form. They can go to the Iowa One Call website. I'm going to have you back up. Sorry, Christine, that was my fault. Just to show where it's at on the website. Go back one more if you would. So on the front where it says Design Professionals, they can actually click on that particular tab. It takes them into either logging in. If they have a login, they can log in. If not, they can register. And I'm going to have you log in, Christine, or start to log in and go down to Need to Register there at the bottom, if you would, please. And ask that you register for the Iowa One Call Design Request System there at the bottom. And click Submit if you would. Or register, sorry. And so there is all of the information that we basically capture for anyone that wants to use the design information system. Basic information, as you can see, we have them set up the password. If you scroll down a little bit, Christine, the other information is we ask, if you're an architect, enter the license. If you're a professional engineer, enter that information. The other thing that I will draw attention to is you'll notice there at the first line, it says Iowa One Call facility owner or operator. This was a change that they made fairly recent where inside the utility, they may not have a person that is a registered engineer or an architect, and therefore they may not have a license number, but they're doing the work on the behalf of the utility. So with that, on that particular field where it says enter CDC code, that is where a utility that is a member of Iowa One Call can turn around and say, I've got Susie doing work for my behalf for our particular Iowa One Call member, and we will track that code again so we can have the information for them. So it gives people that may not necessarily have a license number, an architecture number, still the ability to use this module. Any questions on that before we get into what a design information request is versus a design locate? Okay, great. Christine, you want to go to the login page and get logged in, if you would, please? And while she's doing that, there's two pieces of the design information system that Iowa One Call has rolled out. One is a design information, and without being too simplistic about it, is it's simply, if you think about it, where you're designing a project and you simply want to know, well, where are and who is out there. So Iowa One Call made it where there's two separate systems. It's pretty simple, very simple to process the design information request. It simply says, I think I'm doing this project here. I'm going to describe the scope and tell me who has facilities out there so I can either hopefully continue with my project where I'm proposing, or maybe I need to work with that utility to move that facility. Maybe I need to redo my design on the project itself and move it over to miss those facilities. And then once you get your design information request in place, you wait 5 days for them to get you the information. You can add detailed maps to it, show them, where your scope of the work is going to be. And you're actually working with the utility inside the utility of who actually handles this. This is not going to your locator. This is not going to the person that actually goes out and spray paints, the facilities for someone that's actually doing an excavation. This is actually going to inside of the utility group, the engineers and the architects and the people that actually maintain the facilities. And so they can exchange, you're talking to them and exchange, prints and discuss with them, where your proposed excavation is going to be in relationship to where their plant is physically in the ground. Then
Connie, you have a specific contact information then.
Absolutely.
So a whole different flow of the information from the One Call Center to different people in the utilities.
Correct. Yeah, as part of the membership form in Iowa, when we launched this, we do ask if you have, plant information or facility operators or an engineering department that has questions about exchanging maps or prints, who would that go to? And we not only collected, it used to just be a phone number. Now it's primarily all done by email. So that way there's the ability to be able to communicate by email, attach information and be able to send it that way rather than make a phone call, get someone's email, and then have to turn around and do the extra work. It was changed to just now obtain contact information by email. Then if you decide that this is where you're going to put your design project, then you can actually go out and specifically request only certain utilities, if need be, to go out and spray paint on the ground where their facilities lie and allow you to ask, additional questions, to do, again, alternate changes to where you actually need to put the facility or where you're actually going to put your job. So it's broken down into two different phases. We did just shy of 5,000 design information requests. And out of those 5,000, let me look here, I think we did about, like I said, about 3,500 of those only resulted in somebody actually having to go out and put paint on the ground. So Christine, at that point, I'm going to turn it over to you.
And I had one more question, Connie.
Sure.
Once you had this system in place, how long did it take to work with facility operators so that you were reaching the correct people within those companies to receive these requests?
While we were building this and making the enhancements, we were reaching out to the utilities. Excuse me. We were reaching out to utilities and gathering that information so we had it before we launched.
So did that take months or?
For some, yes.
Okay.
But that's typical with anything. The larger utilities, they were on board right away.
Okay.
And again, reaching out, because keep in mind, I apologize, I've got something in my throat. Keep in mind, this was not a brand new product. It was something that was already in place when we partnered with Iowa One Call. It was just not heavily used. So when we decided that this was a project that we wanted to expand and get more use out of it, we did a lot of education. We did a lot of what we would call e-shots, which I know you're very familiar with, Barb. We also did a lot of meetings and newsletters, and we also encouraged our board and our utility membership to get out and help us with getting the information, and also getting in contact with the engineering and the architectural and the state highway department was a big one that we reached out to say, look, this is what we're doing, we need this information.
And then one last question. Is this an NXT or is it only in NextGen?
This is in ITIC Next. Iowa is, I think, one version of software behind Minnesota, but yes, for all practical purposes, this is not the old ITIC 2 application. When I
so we could, it will be ready to plug and play into ours if we.
Yes.
Okay. Absolutely. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Christine,
Currently, the view that you're looking at is the NXT, the iSite landing page. So that's the way that we would build it out. And to the point of the timing, Connie, it's very valid what she said about this being a pre-existing function that made it go a lot faster. Starting this from scratch, asking people to provide these contacts, there's probably a lot of work to do there. I would expect at least 60 days to allow people time to figure out where they want the tickets to be sent and to structure their departments to be able to receive them.
Thank you.
Christine, it's all yours.
All right, let's go. We're just going to go over the basic workflow of how our system works for the user. If any of you have a question at any time, just stop me. I'd be happy to answer them. If not, make a note and we'll go over them on the end. Once you're registered for the design request system, you will get the option of the design information request button. So that is not something everybody has, only once you're registered for it, and the web class that has access for that version will be assigned to you. So you have that then in your menu. That is the first part that you're going to do when filing a design information request. And this will just give you the basic information of the utilities that would be in the area of question. It's not gonna be very specific. It's just to get contact information established for our first step. And
Are you going to steal my ticket from me, Christine?
Actually, I'm going to steal the area.
Okay. So what Christine is doing is you can obviously, if you're doing, man, I've got something in my throat. If you're doing an existing ticket or and have a similar job that you need or a project that you're doing, you can obviously copy the information from that previous design information request, or you can start out with a brand new location. For the sake of discussion for the presentation, we just did one real early this morning, and we're just going to use this ticket to show you out in a rural area along it's actually there was a creek bed reconstruction project that one of the utilities was working on, and they suspected that there was not only a high pressure gas pipeline going through there, but also that there was some fiber running along this particular interstate. And obviously the Iowa Department of Transportation had some facilities out there. So this was a really good area that we thought we would show you as far as a potential design project.
So you can maneuver your system how you want to. I just made it myself easy since I knew where I had a ticket number that already had the area encompassed, but you can use your address bar to get to the area, search it just like you would do on any other ticket for that. The mapping process that you're gonna be having for this is pretty similar to a regular ticket. You will go ahead and you can either choose one of the populated marking tools like a circle or a route. We have still the select feature, what is a straight tool and an XT for named features like streets on the map. Or you can go ahead and create your polygon, which is a free drawing tool for an area that is in odd shape. Or you can load up a shapefile in Iowa, which I've seen a lot in design requests for people that have engineers. They just have a shapefile that they load up. It loads up the GPS points and creates the polygon for them. So they don't have to necessarily do the mapping, they just upload it in that kind of sense. We're gonna go with the polygon. So unique to the DIR is that once you are on the second page, you are filling in the information a little different than from what you would do with a locate request. This is not a locate request in the sense that the utilities are required to go out there and mark the area. Like I said earlier, this is purely to get the information of which utilities would be located within the polygon that I'm drawing, so I can obtain contact information with them and then get in contact with the utilities and request maps or request files from them, et cetera, anything that I would need at my stage at this point to get my planning, my blueprints, my permits, et cetera, established. So the questions on here are going to be a little bit different. The design, the most thing is there's no excavation information. In Iowa, we ask what you're digging with, how long are you digging. This is not on a DIR because it's irrelevant, as well as then how are we filling in the ticket versus a locate request. So you would still go ahead and put a location of work in there where you're indicating of where the area of question is. So this would be near State Highway 2. And now we're gonna zoom out a little bit. We do have an intersecting road of Dyke Road down here that is the closest. We can use all the tools to just get to the area that we want. So we have approximately 800 feet to the northeast.
While Christine is using the Polygon tool here, which is going to require her to enter all of the information because Polygon is her free form. And of course, she's also out in the middle of this field here along this private road with the road curves. But if she would have used route, let's say that she was going more along State Highway 2, she could have used the route feature and a lot of this information would have defaulted in for her. Iowa has it where on certain tools, it will pull information and populate these fields. However, on Polygon, because everything is free form and we don't know what you're going to be doing. Iowa has opted to not have any of the fields populate and require a manual entry to those particular instructions. So while she's typing in where this project is or where they're proposing to have this project done, she would actually have to type in all of the information there. But if she, like I said, if she used circle, it would have populated that and it would have given directions to say, well, the proposed work site is approximately X amount of feet from, the intersection of State Highway 2 and Dyke Road. And the other point that I'll make is another change that Iowa One Call made when we made these changes to the new to the new design information system on eyesight is that if you need to, and we have had a few, believe it or not, where they've actually encompassed the entire county. And that was done based upon for trees. They were planning a major tree partnership with I want to call it, is it Arbors of the State? But they actually came up with a design information request and literally drew a polygon around the entire county and said, this is where we're going to be doing all of this work. And we want to know every utility that has facilities in this particular county. And then when they had that information, they actually worked with us and created several tickets throughout the city, or the cities, I should say, and rolled that out where they were able to work with the utilities based upon that. So that way they could plant the trees, also could control, the amount of locates, because you can imagine how many locates were generated in a particular county. And it was a pretty urban area too. So.
And Connie, what year did this go into place, the system?
Well, again, they had an existing system when we took over in 2010. We redid the design information system. It's a good question, Barb. Let's see, we've had ITIC next now in Iowa for 5 years. This has probably been in place, I want to say close to 6 years now. This will probably be the 6th year that it's been on the on eyesight and with the enhancements that we've installed. Sorry, Christine, go ahead.
Oh, you're fine. So like Connie said, you can use different tools, like the circle would give you the pre-populated marking instructions, the route, the street tool, or you can go ahead and use the free drawing tool. Our tools that give you pre-populated marking instructions also provide you Google driving directions. That's up to preference. I teach people to use the other tools if they can, because the Polygon tool is the most difficult. But if you are good in what you're doing and you know what is required, that you know how to use the measuring tool and know that information, put it on there, that will be just as sufficient. But what I did type in right here, I just gave them a starting intersection so everybody knew where to start. I let them quickly know on where the area of interest is located, as well as what I'm looking for in terms of my boundaries of my locate. At this point, we offer an option to also attach an attachment if you do have a map site or blueprints that you want to provide to the utilities prior to making contact. You can go ahead and attach that here. We will go ahead and go to our submission page. Now, this particular area is a testing code. It has one utility only for our notification, but all utilities would be listed in this list that you are getting, and you get a quick overview of your area right here. At this point, you can go ahead and submit the ticket. And your ticket has been processed. I'm going to go finish. Now, to where did our ticket go? Connie said earlier, you have to wait the 5 business days for the utilities to provide contact information and get in contact with them before you can actually go ahead and convert a DIR, what is the design information request system, into a DLR, design locate request. Now, there could be the question, why? I already have the information. I already have the maps. What else can I do? Why am I gonna go ahead and convert it besides the marking on the ground? When you convert a ticket from the DIR, go ahead.
Kristen, sorry, I just got to interrupt for a second. I got to jump off because I'm the host and they can't get in on the other meeting. So
Okay,
I
thank
will
you.
watch the recordings afterwards, and you're in good hands with Kristen. Thank you.
Thanks, Adam. So you can go, no, I lost my train of thought. You can go ahead and change the information. So I say we had a project that we were in a general area that we're looking into obtain information for. And now I got the information from my utilities obtained like in maps and into further detail. So now when I'm going to go ahead and wait my time and I convert my tickets, which these tickets, as you see up here, are tickets we can convert now. They're older from testing earlier. But I can specify my plans, meaning we'll go ahead with the process. We go hit the convert button.
Hey, Christine, can you go back before you do that, please? So what that system is like I had mentioned, there's Iowa One Call decided to break their design system into 2 parts. You have a design information, which is what Christine just filed. And now the next piece, not that all of the design information tickets need this, but some of them you'll find that maybe on certain ones, you do need to have a specific utility or multiple utilities come out and actually put paint on the ground so you can actually analyze where their facilities are in relationship to where your proposed job site is. And so rather than have to turn around and rekey in all this information, is we allow you to turn around and say, okay, you had a design information ticket, which is what Christine is showing you there. And now after 5 days, you can actually convert any one of those that you've entered. So this system is actually allowing you to manage your design information tickets, and you can then convert that over to a design locate request, which says, okay, I need to actually have, MinOps go out and actually look at this particular, or AT&T or CenturyLink, go out and actually put paint on the ground for this specific area. Or maybe it's only where your proposed job site is. Maybe you had it, like I mentioned, the county there on a previous one. Maybe you don't need to have them come out and actually spray paint on throughout the entire county. Maybe you only need it for a particular area, say like Cedar Rapids, Iowa. Then you can actually narrow that scope down and actually say, okay, this was my project, but I don't need you to go out and spray paint, the entire county. I only need a certain area. So that's what this module is showing. And it allows an individual, because this is based upon your email. So I might have 10 or 15 design information tickets, but Barb may have been extremely busy and she may have 20 or 30 that she's managing. It's all based upon your login and which tickets, so that way you're able to manage these. And if you don't do anything with them, to keep your list from getting bigger and bigger and bigger, Iowa One Call actually had us change it to where if you don't do anything with your design information tickets, we archive them for you after 60 days. And if you need to then be able to go back and say, okay, well, I thought I was done with that project, or we shelved that project because we just, for whatever reason, aren't going to do it, and you need to revive that. Well, you don't need to go in there and resubmit the information, and that you can actually pull it out of archive and put it back in this list right here. And now it becomes an active design information ticket that you're actually working on. Sorry, Christine, go ahead.
Oh, you go ahead. So let's go ahead and convert a ticket. as you can see, I changed websites. So I just went to our training database because I knew I had to take it there that had more than one utility on there. So we're not notifying anyone. So what this does, when I spoke earlier about you can define your project better. This ticket was mapped previously with a tool that's for parcels where you select a property. You can change the mapping to make this more defined, meaning if you actually need on-ground markings, we bring you back to the map to encourage. For the example too that Connie had earlier with a large project, or I'm actually working with 2 customers in Iowa right now that are getting ready to statewide over 29 counties installing pipeline. So their DIRs are going to be large areas, which is okay because they're just getting contact information. They're just getting basics. Nobody's required to go out. However, when they're going to go ahead and convert this, they have already obtained information to specifically indicate on the maps on where will they need to locate to save the utility time and for them to just not over notify in that point in time. So you can go ahead and change your previous mapping on this page, and you can go ahead and define it to more of a specific area that you're looking in instead of the entire project that was previously planned. Now, this is a parcel. This is just an example, but that would work. You could remap it with the Polygon tool where you enter your own information. You can delete something completely that was before in here and then draw something smaller or draw something with a different tool. That is up to you at this point in time. Once you're satisfied with the final map where the on-ground utilities are going to mark, you're going to go ahead and go back to our second page. Now here's where these pre-populated marking instructions will take place now. Since I used that tool, the system is asking me if I want to use the instructions that a computer is going to generate for me on that. Or go ahead and say yes for that. And then in Iowa, I like that feature a lot. It just pre-populates you the information based from what I chose. So I chose that I wanted the front left of the property marked. It gave me my address. It did give me my dig street, my nearest intersecting street, county, and the city that we're located in. So that is already all pre-filled in. The next step we need to look at, and this is because this is now a design locate request, we do want to know who is the work going to be done for and if the job is white lined. We still have a white lining law. We have people that go out on site, they're going to be on ground. So white lining is always helpful if the area cannot be defined clearly with the marking instructions.
And while Christine is doing that, again, when we did the design information, there were fields that, again, because it was just in the design phase, we're just simply trying to determine, or the architect or the engineer or the utilities just trying to determine who has facilities in my proposed design project. There were a lot of questions that we didn't ask. Is it marked in white? Is it staked? Who are you doing the work for? All of that was not useful in that particular design phase. So when we redid the system, we again tried to only ask questions that really pertain to that particular phase of the project. Again, when you're starting to ask utilities to go out and put paint on the ground for a specific spot of that project or all of that project, then some of these additional questions you'll see will come into play, because now we need to know, well, where exactly are you expecting me to put paint on the ground for this project for you?
Connie, what is the statutory framework behind this? I guess, is there one? Are the DIRs or DLRs mandated, or this is all voluntary?
It's all voluntary. That's a really good question, Dean. It is not in the law. It isn't, and there's a mixed opinions on that as to it should be. Obviously, the utilities find it extremely very helpful because like Des Moines Waterworks is probably one of the heaviest users in it because they've been replacing all of their lead water pipes. And, you know, and of course, they're in the city of Des Moines, which is one of the most heavily, you know, populated cities in Iowa. And of course, you can imagine what is underground. And so for them to try to, you know, redesign, because, you know, when they put it in, you know, maybe they were the only ones that were particular, you know, in that particular ditch, if you will, or road right of way. Of course, now, you know, I mean, you dig up anything in the city and you've got, you know, cable, you've got water, you got sewer, you got gas. So they've been really heavily a big proponent of it. And they would like to see it mandated because it helps, you know, the utilities, it helps them with not having to, you know, pay to move things. But no, it's not mandated. It's not even mentioned anywhere in the law at all.
Okay. So now we're at the last page again about submitting our design locate request. And here's what Connie was pointing out when we're starting the ticket. Here comes to play, who do I physically need more information from? For example, I know that the water and that the city is not going to be of my interest. Who I'm interested is the CenturyLink line on that particular piece of property or area that I decided to have marked on ground. So in this phase, I can choose a singular utility on this DLR that I'm going to notify, and only CenturyLink at this point would be notified when we're submitting. I can choose it to send it to all if that is necessarily for me, but you are very customized in what utility will go out at this point in time to physically mark for you to obtain more information. And that may or may not be then at this point a utility that may then need to be requested to move lines. That's why this is then done as a further planning step into the.
And Christine, I do want to mention, please pay attention to the contact emails. Notice that, you know, they're going to, like with CenturyLink, it's going to go to an individual. That's probably the person inside of CenturyLink that is actually responsible for design type projects or, you know, engineering type projects. Whereas in Des Moines Waterworks, I happen to know that, you know, One Call Maps, that's their engineering department. And they actually have a team of, I think they said 3 people that actually receive these and will then work it. And one other last point is if Christine didn't select somebody here, by default, Iowa has it set. Again, this is customizable, has it set where it turns around and says, okay, you didn't select anyone. I'm going to assume that you meant to, and we will send it out to everyone. If they don't select at least a single utility, we will default it. Iowa has it set where we will default it and send it out to everybody listed. And Christine, I think we're at our time limit. So was there anything else that you wanted to share or?
No, we're going to just click submit. There it says that we send it to all since I didn't select anyone. So we'll let you know that it's sending it to everybody. And you are done and you have your design locate number.
And that is emailed. So you get a copy of it as well in your email. But again, if you want to go back to the DLR screen, Christine, where you manage your DIRs, you now should see, yeah. So it's right there. So when you log in, you'll be able to see the last, you know, project that you actually filed.
And then it lets you know this is a design locate versus a design information request. And this one has been converted, so it will never be able to be converted. But yeah, it looks like a regular ticket, besides that it has a different header, different ticket number. But yeah.
Great.
Yeah, thank you for showing this to us today. I don't remember seeing this, but if I did, I must have been a long time ago. This is great. We should think about this at GSAC for Minnesota.
The only other thing that I'll mention, Barb, and you probably saw it several years ago because the Oregon board also just implemented something real similar, and they used Iowa's as a base. Again, you know, each board center is going to need, you know, something different and customized, but because, you know, what we do in Iowa obviously complies with Iowa, and obviously I'm sure Minnesota would need, you know, some changes and some tweaks from it to do that. But yeah, I think it has really helped a lot with getting, you know, locates done for these types of projects, because what Iowa has struggled with before they put this in place is that if you needed to know who was out there, you didn't have any choice but to call in a locate. So then you have to wait, call in this huge locate. You're not doing digging, you're just really doing, you know, the design and the planning phase. And you made utilities go out and actually spray paint on the ground for work that you may not ever do. But you didn't have a choice. You know, it was either that or just, you know, go out there and stick a shovel in the ground and hope that you didn't hit anything.
We have these tickets. We don't have the nice connection to the actual designers and the utility companies. So this is a great addition.
Great. Well, awesome. Well, any other questions? Otherwise, I don't want to take up your whole meeting, but appreciate the opportunity to present this.
One other question, quick, Connie, from the facility operators side of this, when that request comes in, is that buffered through a notification area, just as a regular locate ticket would be? Or is it only show the area that they are requesting and it's just based on that?
It is only showing, so on the design information and the design, well, let's do the design information. On the design information request, you indicate where your proposed project is going to be. And it uses the same database that the locate ticket, if you were calling in to say, yeah, I'm going to be digging in my backyard. But keep in mind, the design information ticket or request, if you will, it's not really a ticket. Design information request is not going to the locator. It's going to go probably somewhere else. And then when you decide that for various reasons you need to actually have paint on the ground, you would go in, modify that if need be, and then that design locate where you actually physically need paint now for this, that actually does go to your locating division, if you will, because those are the people that are going to put the paint on the ground. But they have all of that information that was tied to that project and the design scope. Does that answer your question?
Yes.
Hey, Connie, it's Steve. I have a question for you.
Sure.
One of the systems we've looked at is the one out in Montana, which is focused on their DOT out there.
Okay.
And the element there is it moves the planner through the process of the approval elements of making their design acceptable and the rest of it, versus this is off on its own, supporting the larger community. Has there ever been any discussion about trying to bring in the, if you will, the legislative requirements of moving through a design process into your system?
There was a little bit of discussion of that when we, enhanced their existing system, but that died pretty quickly because there were two different sides of it, and
okay,
and they at the time didn't really want to open up the law at that time, but for various reasons. So there was a little bit of discussion, but it didn't really get any legs and didn't go anywhere.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Kristen. Thanks, Connie.
Yes.
Great.
Yeah. All right. Have a
Thank
good
you both.
evening. Thanks. Bye.